Again, this is Dennis Brown with Freight Broker Bootcamp. Today we're going to go over the 5 bad habits that freight brokers need to avoid in order to increase their productivity. So, all right, I want to welcome everybody. Again, this is Dennis Brown. For those of you that don't know my story, I started a freight brokerage back in 2003. I had absolutely zero experience in the logistics, trucking, freight industry. Was very, very blessed. Went on to grow that company to over $80 million in sales. Retired and sold that business to pursue some other ventures. But I'm also the owner of, an online freight broker and freight agent training program called Freight Broker Bootcamp. It's the most comprehensive and cost-effective online freight broker training program online. Feel free to check that out if you have time. But right now, we're going to dive into those 5 bad habits. And so I'm going to start off with number 1. Number 1 is putting off the most important things that you need to get done today until later in the day. Putting those things off. It's a huge mistake, and it happens all the time. And the reason being, studies show that humans have a very limited willpower. There's a limit to our willpower, and the further throughout the day we go, the less willpower we have. So the most willpower and the most ability to get something done is early in the morning. So if you have very important things that you need to get done, critical things that need to get done in your business or in your personal life, do them early. Get them done in the morning. Don't put them off till later in the day, because a lot of times they just never happen. All right. I'm sure that you're not guilty of that. I know you're not guilty of it. I know I'm not guilty of it. Well, of course I am. Everybody does that. We put things off, till tomorrow. And unfortunately, that just happens. It's a bad cycle, and then things just never get done, and it kills your productivity. Okay. So that's number 1. Don't put things off till later in the day. Number 2 is a huge one. I remember struggling with this at my logistics company. I had a bunch of employees, and I had a bunch of agents, and I had a bunch of people working for me. And, what I found is that they spend an enormous amount of time in their email. And studies show, there was a recent poll, that the average worker spends 6.3 hours per day in their email inbox. That's crazy. That's crazy talk, right? How do you get anything done when you're constantly checking email all day long? So checking email all day long is the number 2 bad habit. And I know that email is a necessity, and we have to check it and we have to use it, but you don't need to check it constantly. You don't need to check it every 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. The world is not going to blow up if you don't check your email every 10 minutes. It's a bad habit. It's habitual. And so, what you need to do is you need to develop a schedule for checking your email. My schedule, I'll tell you my schedule. My schedule is I check email. One of the worst things you can do, first of all, is to check email first thing in the morning, because that just throws you off. And now all of a sudden, the things that were important are going to get trumped by the things that are in your inbox. And so it's going to kill your productivity. I check my email. My email schedule is 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Now, I check it twice a day, and I dive into it. I try to respond to everything at that point that I can. If not, I push it off, and then I respond to it later. But ultimately, I check my email twice a day. For you, that may not work. You may have to start out checking it maybe 3 times a day. Maybe you're going to check it at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and then 4 p.m. or something along those lines. You have to develop your own schedule, all right? But I strongly suggest that you create a schedule. And another couple tips that you can do is this. You can also shut your email off. Close your email, whether it be web-based, close it out of the browser, whether it be like an Outlook type program, close the program out, just close your email. And make sure you shut off those crazy notifications, that come up in your Windows tray there, all the notifications. I hate those notifications. They're a huge distraction. And then last but not least, if you're really trying to focus, you really should shut your phone off, because most people get email on their phone these days, and text and phone calls. Shut your phone off. If you need to focus on something that's really important, and you need to commit and really focus on it for a half an hour, an hour, a couple of hours, shut your phone off. So those are a couple of tips, but most importantly, stop checking email all day long, okay? That's number 2. Number three is one that, I've had many, many debates with people about, and that is this: multitasking. Multitasking is when you're trying to juggle too many balls at once, right? You've got all kinds of balls in the air. And unfortunately, what happens with most people is something drops through the cracks. Something falls onto the ground and they lose track of it and it becomes an issue, especially in business, right? And when you're in the logistics business, accuracy is really important. Pickup and delivery times, locations, callbacks, all those sorts of things are really, really important. The devil's in the detail in logistics. So when you're multitasking, you have a tendency to make more mistakes. And believe it or not, studies show that only 2% of people are effective at multitasking. The rest of the people actually waste more time trying to do multiple things at once than just focusing on one thing until it's done and then moving on to the next thing, okay? So multitasking seems like a good idea in theory, and I can tell you that freight brokers are notorious for multitasking. They got a phone here, and they're typing an email, and they've got a file open here, and they're looking here and talking here, and they're answering questions in every direction. And I can tell you that those people, the people that can effectively do that, are very, very rare, and the odds of you being that person are not very good. So I'm not a very good multitasker. What I'm really, really good at is I'm really good when I have one task in front of me, get it done, knock it out, move on to the next one. I can get a lot of things done at a very high level, and I think you'll agree if you try that. Okay, so multitasking is a very bad habit. Number 4 is too many meetings. Okay, in the corporate world, even as an entrepreneur, as a small entrepreneur having, a couple of employees or a few employees, too many meetings is a really bad idea, and it's a huge time suck. And honestly, most of them are a huge waste of time. So when you have to schedule meetings, there are times when you have to schedule meetings. And of course, you have sales calls and things of those nature. Those are meetings. Those are sales-related meetings. Those you have to have. You want to have more of those, okay? But I'm talking about internal meetings, either with your employees or contractors or partners or whatever it is. Try to avoid those meetings unless, number one, they have a very clear agenda, a written agenda of exactly what you're going to talk about, and a timeline, meaning 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and you stick to that timeline, okay? The other tips that I have for you about meetings is this. Number one, you have to have that written agenda. But number two, if you're going to have a meeting with 2 or more people, okay, which is what constitutes a meeting, you need somebody to take notes. Take notes. They don't have to write word for word. They just have to jot down some bullet points on what you discussed and what you agreed upon and what the action plan is from that meeting. What is the outcome of that meeting? And then they need to send it to, after the meeting, within an hour after that meeting, they should send those notes out to whoever the people that attended that meeting are, okay? So less meetings. Having too many meetings is a huge time suck. It kills your productivity, okay? And number 5, this is a big one. This is one that I've struggled with along with these other ones, but this is one that I've struggled with in a variety of different areas, and I'm sure you'll agree. It's called perfectionism. Perfectionism is when you feel as though that everything has to be absolutely perfect or you won't do it. And here's what I found is that I believe that there are more people, it's not always laziness and it's not always being too busy on why important tasks don't get done. A lot of times it really comes down to fear. And it's the fear of not doing a good job. It's a fear of not doing a good job. Thank you, Scott Hicks, for the share. Appreciate it. And chime in, the rest of you, for those of you, I should have mentioned this, for those of you that are on the stream live, chime in the chat. Let me know where you're logging in from. Give me your city and state, where you're logging in from. Give me some thumbs up, and I do appreciate, Scott, the share. Anybody who shares this, that would be fantastic. So perfectionism is a huge issue, and it prevents people from taking action on those important things because they're afraid that they won't do them right or they'll do a bad job at it. And here's what I can tell you. I took a couple of notes down here, and one of the quotes that always rings through my head is progress over perfection. You always want to take progress over perfection. You want to move the ball down the field. It's not about doing it perfect every single time, okay? It's about moving the ball down the field. It's about progress over perfection. So, some of you, I'm going to tell you right now, I remember when I had to shoot my first live video. Trust me, there was always something better to do because it was a little fearful, right? You're getting on camera live in front of people, and there's always something else to do. So you push that to the back and push it to the back, and it never gets done. And the reality is you just got to eat that frog, okay? You just got to get it done. And so progress over perfection. The other thing, writing blog posts, that's another thing that I struggled with a little bit, because there's always things that I want to, there's always, it's always a little bit, you're too critical of yourself, right? Of your performance, of the things that you do. So I can tell you, I know that somebody that watches this video is waiting for the perfect time to start their freight brokerage or their freight agency. They're just waiting for all the moons to line up and for all the stars to align and the perfect timing. Well, I got news for you guys. That does not exist. There is no such thing as the perfect time. What you need to do is you need to make a decision. You need to take action. You need to make some mistakes. You need to learn from those mistakes, and you need to move forward. That's the secret. The secret is this, taking action, make some mistakes, learn, and that is the secret to success. Move forward. So, don't try to be a perfectionist. Just realize that progress is always better than perfection. So Scott Hicks is logging in from Houston. Eric Serrano from LA. Who else we got in the stream? Anybody else? So, we got, what do we got? We got Ryan Keeney from Peoria, Illinois. Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys all chiming in. I appreciate you guys all logging in and listening and checking this out. I'm going to be doing some more live videos. I'm going to try to do at least one a week where I cover different topics. I did a post the other day where I'm going to be doing some upcoming webinars. So I'm going to do a webinar, which is going to be a full-blown webinar style training. It's going to be probably 45 minutes to an hour long, very in-depth training. I'm going to announce the topics very soon, so stay tuned. Make sure you like the Facebook page. Make sure you share the feed. And I appreciate any and all comments and feedback you guys have. Listen, I want to thank you guys for joining me. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.